We left off last time leaving the Cabot Trail and heading towards Halifax. Before leaving the trail, we stopped for some cinema rolls and treats for the road at the Farmer's Daughter. This is where things took a turn for the not so good. We were on the road for about an hour and a half when we made a Starbucks stop, and I realized I had left my purse back at the Farmer's Daughter. I was devastated and felt so bad. Dale and I had to make the drive back while Mom and Jen and the kids stayed behind to go bowling and play. There's no need for everyone to suffer the long drive just because I had made such a dumb mistake. This mistake would cause even more problems as we continue, but more on that later. We got the purse though and picked up everyone else and booted it to Halifax to make it in time for our harbor hopper cruise around the harbor of Halifax.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Halifax Harbor. Now, Halifax Harbor is the second deepest natural ice-free harbor in the world. She's one of my favorite vessels to work with when she visits here. And the students looked at them funny and said, "Aren't you next to the second deepest tiers? A man by the name of Enos Collins." The Blue Nose, based out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. This is the Blue Nose 2, a replica of the first. Would it surprise you to find out that this was actually a floating beer advertisement? Yes, indeed.
The day itself was rough, but it ended well. The cruise was informative, and it was actually a lot of fun. The guide was entertaining and taught us so much about the history of this very important Canadian city that we would begin to explore on foot the next morning. We then finally got to our hotel suite where we would be for the next 2 nights. Our first stop in the morning was the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21. This was one of the attractions we knew we had to do when planning our time in Nova Scotia, as it was an integral part of our family's history here in Canada. Both my Oma and Opa came through this pier on separate boats and at different times in the 50s when their families immigrated to Canada from the Netherlands.
Yep. Here's the one Opa came on, and here's the one Oma came on.
As we visited the exhibits and walked through the building, we caught a glimpse of what it was like for them as they arrived in this new land and went through the immigration process. It was later in another part of the country that they met, fell in love, and began a family and life in Ontario, bringing us to here and now. We found their boat on the wall, and Mom was able to acquire their records from that time. It meant a lot to us to experience this part of our history.
What would you like to do?
We then walked along the boardwalk to the downtown waterfront, looking for somewhere to eat. It was quite busy, but we finally found a nice restaurant and had one of the best meals of our trip. And then run. We spent the afternoon at the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic for a bit more of a history of the various ships that had gone in and out of this harbor and the events that this city had faced. We ended up ordering pizza in our room for dinner as we were tired from a whole day of walking and exploring. And we also still had to address the issue that had come up with the car due to the extra driving we had to do the other day. The extra kilometers burnt through an already weakened hose. So Dale spent the evening figuring out where we could get a replacement, and the next morning, both him and I drove to the parts store and Canadian Tire to get what we needed, and Dale switched out the hose. It's really handy to have your mechanic on the trip with you, which is a very different outcome from the last time I had car trouble on the road. Once the car was all fixed, we packed it up and hit the road again towards our first stop of the day, which was Peggy's Cove. Since it was lunch when we arrived, we ate at the restaurant there before exploring. It was very windy, but we had a lot of fun clambering over the rocks and taking in the views and listening to the waves crash against the shore. Well, some of us had a lot more fun than others. We then got back in the car and headed to our final destination for the day, which was Lunenburg. After settling into our rooms, we headed to the town to explore. We started with a walk through the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic, learning more about the industry that is at the heart of the Atlantic region, and also about the blue nose, which is a national icon and was built here in Lunenburg. Before heading back, we grabbed some ice cream at a local shop and snacks from the grocery store. We had a really nice quiet evening at the beach across from our motel, skipping rocks while we watched the sun go down. Some of these more simple moments became some of our favorite memories. The next day we hit the road again. This time we were leaving Nova Scotia, but before we did, we stopped at Five Islands Provincial Park so we could experience the low tide and get a chance to walk on the ocean floor. It was cold and windy, but also really awesome. We saw many snails and mussels and the sign that this was and will again be covered in the waters as the tide began to roll back in. Once that began to happen, we went a little farther up the road to the lighthouse and got a view of the islands from a different viewpoint. Our Atlantic provinces are home to some of the really amazing landscapes. We then left Nova Scotia and began our route to our Airbnb in New Brunswick. This is where things got bad again. When I walked into the house, I was met with a huge mess. Dishes everywhere, dirty towels all over the bathroom, garbage is full of diapers, and unmade beds. We walked straight back out. I called the owner to complain, and luckily we were able to get a refund. But that left us stranded for the night with no place to stay. So we made the decision to drive a bit farther towards Fredericton, since it had hotels with availability, and then just head home from there a day early. We settled into our hotel, and then most of us headed out into the streets to visit the music festival that just happened to be going on that evening. This could have been a really hard pill to swallow, but we had such a great time in Fredericton, and we were ready to head home. The next morning, we packed up early as it was going to be a long drive to get home, and we had a few stops we wanted to make along the way. Our first stop was at the Covered Bridge Potato Chip Factory. We did the self-guided tour and enjoyed the complimentary bag of fresh chips at the end. We got to top them with the flavors of our choice and try a few out before purchasing a few bags for the road.
This stirring of chips allows them to cook evenly and keeps them from sticking together. So that's what that little thing does. It keeps them from sticking together and keeps where they are spun very quickly for approximately 20 seconds to remove the oil.
These are the any chips that don't make well.
Oh, yeah.
And Cooper, you can see the laser.
One over here.
You can see the laser on the inside, Cooper.
We also stopped at the Aquarium de Quebec in Quebec City. We had a lot of fun walking around and watching all the animals. The jellyfish were mesmerizing, the walruses entertaining, and the owls so interesting. We saw as much as we could before the aquarium closed and we got back on the road. It's like touching rubber, like a rubber.
They're so used to it.
Yeah, they're coming and they're flapping at you to be touched.
It's like you're saying,
Hey, look, he's like,
"Oh,
it is. Star? This guy right here. Two fingers. Two fingers.
No, it's just resting. Even though there were a few challenges along the way, this trip was absolutely amazing. We had so much fun, learned lots of new things, and got to experience so many beautiful views. These past few years have been hard for us, but it also brought us closer together. Taking the time to rest and explore together only strengthens us as we head back and face whatever other challenges that will come our way in the future.